Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining Athletic Business and Digital Scoreboards for today's webinar. You'll be hearing first from Chris Kern, President and CEO of Digital Scoreboards. Chris is going to play a quick video for you all to introduce Digital Scoreboards. And we'd like to remind you that throughout the presentation, our audience is welcome to ask questions. The team would love to have an interactive afternoon with you all today. So please put those questions in the Q&A box on your screen and keep an eye out for those Q&A opportunities to pop up as they will throughout the presentation today. And with that, go ahead with the video, Chris.
Thank you, Audrey.
Digital Scoreboards. We had our first project in 2014 to help one school and one school only.
We were the first customer of Digital Scoreboards. It was a no-brainer.
Word spread that we did things differently, and we quickly sold 8 more. We spent a year journaling with schools about likes and dislikes and general thoughts. We built a consistent company brand and message about being different.
We definitely felt that way with Digital Scoreboards.
We bootstrapped school by school, referral by referral.
I've gotten 2 or 3 calls from other teams, other coaches, buddies of mine, asking me, all right, what'd you do? How'd you do it? Who'd you work with? And, every time I'm giving them Digital Scoreboards, it's a no-brainer.
Treating people the right way along the way.
A lot of really happy customers from Digital Scoreboards.
And what started as one school in September of 2014 is now over 700 schools nationally. So yeah, a lot has changed. But one thing remains consistent. We hire quality.
Digital Scoreboards came in and it was the personal touch. Their entire staff, the support that we received from them, it was just absolutely tremendous.
Digital Scoreboards will be a part of anything that we do moving forward with our scoreboard operations.
I really appreciate everybody joining us today on this webinar. I'm really excited about the panel that we've built for this hour that we have together today. We've got Don Goebel will be joining us. He is a multimedia expert and has built a special curriculum for high schools and other schools alike, where we're educating students across the country. We also have Charlie Megan, who's the founder and president of Scoreboard Media, a really good partner of ours, fellow Billboard guy, and a person that is raising a lot of money for schools through advertising and marketing efforts. And then last but certainly not least, we've got Donald Tucker, Executive Director of the Springdale Public Schools Foundation in Arkansas, a very recent customer who will talk to you all about the ease of operation, the ease of construction, installation, and everything that goes into a project. So you might be asking yourself, who's Digital Scoreboards and where did they come from? If you've not heard of our company and the name, you're not alone. That is not uncommon. We've kind of came out of nowhere. As the video said, 10 years ago, we started this company truly to help one school only, and that was the school that my kids went to in Quincy, Illinois. The plan was to do one scoreboard and be done. As billboard guys, we know the steel industry, the digital display industry, and it was really just different software powering the board. Project went so well, the other school across town called and wanted one a couple months later. The Division II university in the area called and wanted 7. Next thing you know, a company was born. Earlier this year, we celebrated our 10th anniversary, and we are just now crossed the 800 install mark nationwide. I believe we're in 41 states. There's a lot of really good product in the industry. There's a lot of really good companies in the industry. And we pride ourselves not to, really go down that road about talking about other companies. At the end of the day, people buy for their reasons and not ours. And it's our job to be consultants, advisors, and really answer their questions and help them through this process. That's why we felt like delivering this type of a webinar relative to curriculum, advertising, the ease of use and operation, and then really good Q&A was more important than just talking about digital scoreboards in particular. So we're really excited to dive in, be able to kind of give you some more information about our company, let some of the panelists talk to you about their piece of the puzzle, and then see if you guys have any needs in the future. So one of the things we continue to hear, and I say this all the time with superintendents, athletic directors at college, university, high schools, and everything in between is we've yet to have a school say, we do not want what you guys sell. Everybody wants what you see on your screen. The challenge is how do you get it across the finish line? Some schools it's financial, some schools it's, facility driven, and everything in between. That's really where we feel like we start to succeed. Some of the photos that you see on the screen, for example, the Harbor Wildcats in the top right-hand corner, very, very challenging installation, but we were still in and out in about 6 days. And that is currently the largest scoreboard in the state of Arkansas for a high school. So what we do is whenever our sales team comes in and talks to schools is our job is to ask questions. What are you looking to accomplish? How do you make it happen? And do we have a solution to help you get it across the finish line? That's where we feel like we start to really exceed and excel with schools nationwide. So with that being said, in keeping with the solutions-based approach and looking at beyond the scoreboard, we're really excited to kick this over to Don Goebel so he can talk to you about curriculum, what he has built, how it's impacting digital scoreboards, how it's impacting our school communities at large, and really what he's accomplished both at Ladue and really now nationwide. So with that being said, Don, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Chris, and welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to speak today and just kind of coming to let you a little bit know about myself. I've been an educator now for 25 years, just left the classroom last spring for family reasons and still in education, but doing different pieces, and excited to work with Chris on the curriculum that goes along with the digital scoreboard. And as a teacher who focused on curriculum, I ran a video production and multimedia class, journalism class back in the early 2000s, which really progressed. And then one day, my athletic director and principal said, "Hey, Don, we just bought this really incredibly gorgeous video scoreboard that's going to go out into the brand new football stadium because our school was being redone. And we would like your kids to create content for it." And I was like, okay, we got to figure that out. So through some really heavy research and through some student organic ideas, I developed a curriculum that was based for the non-video teacher, which is one of my backgrounds. During my entire time that I taught video, one of the things I learned, and I traveled the country for Apple Education and Adobe Education, was that media integration was just clearly important in a child's learning at every age, K to university. And so I developed curriculum talking about that. And so I took that same mindset and developed a curriculum for the non-teacher, knowing that broadcast programs or video programs across the country in schools, if they have them, they're like snowflakes. No two are alike. So you can't just speak in generalities most of the time. So what can you do? And so I developed this curriculum because I knew my students also that were coming into the class were not going to have any experience with cinematography, photojournalism, editing, what it really meant to create a sports video that would be appropriate for a scoreboard. So I did a lot of research at the high school level locally when I was in St. Louis, Missouri. Didn't find too much that I liked. I then looked at the university level because I always treated my class as kind of a preparatory for college anyway. So I researched D3 all the way up to D1, called schools, talked to athletic directors, used some of my alumni students who went there to leverage what they were doing now that all of the universities were getting scoreboards as well. And then I was very lucky and fortunate enough to have a very good friend who runs the Jumbotron video scoreboard for the St. Louis Cardinals. And I sat down with him and they call it game entertainment at Busch Stadium. And I said, "Mike, tell me all about game entertainment and all the different roles and responsibilities of people and how you create content and the type of content you create and why you create it." So I took all of those reasons, really boiled it down and created what I believe is, I hate to say a formula, but it's a structure that I think any teacher who has passion or excitement about this topic would be interested in attacking and bringing into the classroom. And we started with 13 kids the first year. And by the time I left, we were serving 148. It exploded. It grew over 400% during COVID because there was so much interest. And it ranged from special needs students in the classroom all the way up to advanced placement students. And I taught kids everywhere in between in a combined environment. So now challenging different kids from different levels. And I took that idea of curriculum also to seize upon all the different learning styles that teachers find in their classroom. So I think my biggest point to drive home today is if you're interested in looking at the scoreboard, for us, it was great. We had a scoreboard, but how are we going to fill content with it? We could stream the game live, but we really wanted to make that. I loved that game entertainment mentality that the Cardinals use in baseball. So I took that mentality and the experience I had, then also the research that I did, and created a curriculum that I believe and found students learned incredibly quickly. And not only did they learn it quickly, it was an opportunity for repetition of learning. And it was through those reps of learning that they started to crank out more and more content that was appropriate for the scoreboard. What this did was it gave kids a ton of confidence. They loved seeing their work in the community, not only in the stadium, but as our boards grew inside the gymnasium and the swimming pools. But it built a level of community because we did some crowdsourcing. We did events for foundations and local organizations and businesses who would come out to the games, and we would create content for them. And the players and the teams, the coaches, the community, the fans, any aspect that was related with a game, the band, the cheerleaders, the dancers, the concessions, you name it, we created content, and people love seeing themselves on the scoreboard. And so it's been really exciting to see that this curriculum is taking off, and that schools are interested in, okay, we've got a board. Now what do we do to make it more of game entertainment rather than just streaming live? So I believe that's what I'm working on with Chris, what we've done. And really the way it kind of starts is I developed a starter pack because this whole curriculum can really be overwhelming. So we divide it, like I've always done with students, in chunks. And we started with a starter pack and then an opportunity to talk and walk through it with me, all the highs and lows and lessons I learned, and then get into more specific projects beyond that, and really how the students take leadership and control of their learning. And so it's been a really amazing process, and I'm excited to extend it further.
Don, I'll go ahead and show your video to highlight what you were able to accomplish at Ladue, and then we'll talk about how we're replicating that. I think, what are we now, close to 40 schools nationwide that have replicated this same model. I'll show this quick video, and then we'll come back to you.
We've been able to develop curriculum that allows our students to develop all the content that goes onto the board.
Don's classes are bursting with kids wanting to do his class.
Our numbers just exploded from 12 to 144 in 2 years.
But that piece and how it brings kids together and provides opportunities.
The stuff the kids are doing in his class and that my kids do on the crew, colleges are giving scholarships for this stuff now.
We wanted to cover every element of an athletic event in the stadium.
We have 3 cameras going at every game.
And our students do all the operation. It's pretty impressive.
This field and board have really boosted the school spirit here.
From the fans to the band, to our dancers, to our cheerleaders, to the teams. It just amps up the feeling of high school athletics.
That's a game changer.
When we put a video up and I see all heads turn to the scoreboard, then I know we've nailed it.
We get compliments from every visiting team that comes in.
Okay, Don, you want to add to that?
It's beyond the stadium now. Like I mentioned, it turned into basketball, our gymnasium, which covers boys and girls basketball, and it turned into the swimming pool and swimming and diving. And we have some very specific groups that we were able to really identify, specifically the seniors. We really approached senior night in a new way, and we have a curriculum that is all about the seniors for their senior night, developing videos for them to honor them on their night when their loved ones meet them at midfield or half court. And it was invigorating for me as a teacher, and it's incredible for the students. And just to give you a couple of quick anecdotes. One of my very first students excelled at this learning very quickly. and created one of the best videos even till the day I left. In her first year, a hype video. Was crazy. But she wanted to study medicine at Tulane University. As a part of the curriculum, I have students create portfolios. And so she wanted to continue creating content while she did her studies. So she presented her portfolio to the athletic director at Tulane. And before she even walked on campus, they hired her to create content for Tulane sports. To the point now in the last couple of years, I've had students now at major universities, Kansas and Kentucky, who are now building out digital media or digital sports curriculum as a part of their business department and making it a major. And they recruited 2 of my students to come join their university because of the work that they did at Ladue, not only the volume of work, but the quality. So it's a real game changer. And I could bore you with a lot of different stories like that. But, I taught large class sizes. I taught all the way up from intro level to advanced. We cover it all. We give students a lot of choice. And I think that's one of the best parts of it. And not only did it grow from the scoreboard, but it grew exponentially in other areas of our school and on social media. And it's thrilling to see when a child finally finds their passion, because I always kind of told them, your homework is going to be seen on a Friday night, or your homework's going to be seen on a Tuesday night at the basketball game, and they think of it in that regard. And just imagine the motivation and passion and maybe nerves that go into creating that work. But, if you put the kids up to the right challenge, they'll meet it and they'll exceed it. And that's the part I'm excited about working with Digital Scoreboards on.
Yeah, thanks for that, Don. A lot of schools ask us, hey, what if I already have a video board? Can we still use your curriculum? And the answer to that is yes. If anybody on this, webinar already has their own video board, and maybe we were not fortunate enough to partner with you on that project, that's okay. We would encourage you to reach out to us, and we'll pair you up with the curriculum package. We'll pair you up with our team and Don to help execute that within your school. At the same time, obviously, the reason that we have this curriculum and we've partnered with Don nationally now is we are really excited that this curriculum package is included whenever a school does partner with us and decides to buy any video board component, whether it's indoor, outdoor, aquatics, you name it. And so if curriculum is of interest to your school and it's something that you're interested in launching, we really believe that we have a first-class model that will help your school. One of the other things that we have seen from Ladue, where Don started this, and to some of our other schools, and this is a good segue into Scoreboard Media, one of the things that we've seen is when students start to build content and they start to do these things that, under Don's tutelage, we've seen attendance go up. We've seen advertisers get more interested and more excited about sponsoring and advertising at a school as well, because it's more than just a game. They're not buying a scoreboard. They're buying something that impacts the whole entire school community. And that's where we feel as a company that we really start to bring all of this together, for a school, whether you're, a high school, whether you're a small college, a mid-major college, or anything in between, which is really where Digital Scoreboards' focus is. We've seen a direct parallel between curriculum, student involvement, and revenue generation as well. Any questions from the audience for Don relative to any Q&A today?
Just a couple of curriculum questions here for you, Don.
Sure.
Is the program built for state requirements?
That is such a great question. I've actually gotten it a couple of times. So the short answer is no, because there's no way I can know every state requirement. What I did do when I developed it was I looked at the International Society of Technical Education, and they have a media standard for education for the entire country. And it sometimes falls under media literacy or digital media. And I extracted a lot of that language when I started to create my standards and then match it up to the state of Missouri that requires it. So I think what is in the best interest, and maybe something that I can work through with teachers, is if they know what their state standards are, their school standards are, I can help direct them and guide them into the right direction, so that, because again, every class is different. I don't know where this curriculum may fall And so different requirements or standards may need to be met. But because of my educational background and curriculum and instruction, master's degree, and research, we will get to the bottom of where it needs to fall.
Fantastic. And then just one more question for you. How hard is the program to implement into a school?
Ooh, that's a loaded question, because I can answer it both ways. It was incredibly easy to start when I had very few students. It was probably easier when I had just a few students. It got a little more difficult when I had 56 vying to have 8 videos play on a Friday night, which created more opportunities for us to look at different inside digital signage throughout our building and social media ways to share and build a competitive environment within the classroom. The workflow does take some time, and there are a lot of steps that I learned from it, mostly from taking the captured footage or all of the footage that's coming in from all these different sources, not only the cameras that may be set up at the stadium, or the video footage that my students might go out and capture, or footage that we might crowdsource. And maybe they're all different kinds of files. And then really trying to make them all marry together so that it works on the files for the board. We found ways to do it. And so that might be the longer portion of it. You know, the actual realization is that kids will pick up on the creation part, at least mine did, and some that I never thought did quick. It was the most frustrating part for them was actually like pouring through the volumes of footage that was available to them. And then it was my job to teach them, I won't say shortcuts, but strategies to get to the right stuff. And that's one of the areas that I can help teachers as well.
Thank you for that, Don. We really appreciate your partnership. We appreciate what you did at Ladue, and then obviously now partnering with Digital Scoreboards nationwide. Thanks for being on the panel today, and showing everybody not only your passion for this, but also your talent for this. So I really appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks, Chris. I'm ready to help out whoever is ready to go next.
Excellent. So keeping with the theme of Beyond the Scoreboard, as I mentioned earlier, when we helped the one school and the one school only, back in 2014, the whole model was, can we put a video board on this football stadium, and can we turn it into a revenue generator for the school? The school that we initially installed is pretty much self-funded athletically. And so we built an advertising curriculum. We launched the model. I actually managed it for the first couple of years for the school and then turned it over to them. And we averaged roughly $140,000 a year for the 4 or 5 consecutive years that I was involved in the program before I turned it over to the school. They have since continued to run it ever since. And it has continued to be very, very successful. We have story after story like that coast to coast, regardless if it's, one of our really good college partners like St. John's University in Minnesota, who is making significant 6 figures on their football board, and the board we put in their field house and their baseball stadium and what have you, all the way down to some of the smallest high schools in the United States, such as Abilene, Kansas, which is in the middle of Kansas, very small town. And they're doing very well with their advertising and revenue generation. Through that, early on in Digital Scoreboards' career, we were helping schools do that independently. Digital Scoreboards would consult with schools. We would help them. As we continued to grow and we had more and more schools, we needed to find a professional resource that could formalize the model, bring it to the marketplace, and not only help schools launch it, but also, if schools didn't have the bandwidth of the people, actually start to manage it for the schools as well. So we're really excited about this partnership. We've been partnered with a company called Scoreboard Media for several years now. We've got a number of projects from coast to coast under management with them. And so with that being said, Charlie, I'm going to kick it over to you, just like we did with Don, and feel free to take it away. All right, something must be going on with Charlie's audio. So I'm gonna go ahead and go through a few of these slides and see if he gets that fixed and can jump in. So how are schools using digital scoreboards to boost revenue and support? There's a lot of different ways. Some schools just want to cover the cost. The scoreboard might cost, a couple $100,000, and they say, hey, we just want to raise enough money to cover the cost of the scoreboard. Others may say, hey, what are your payment options? Can we lease it? Can we finance it with you to keep our annual payment lower? So therefore, we can go raise advertising money, which not only makes the payment, but helps fund the athletic department. That's becoming very, very popular. And then some schools truly have a desire to turn it into a pretty significant revenue stream, which we are seeing that nationwide as well. So regardless if you are asking yourself, hey, I don't have a budget for this, or maybe I do have a budget for this, there is a way to get this across the finish line through advertising, revenue generation, leasing, financing, and what have you. So with that said, I'm going to show a quick video, and then I'll talk to this particular school and what we were able to accomplish here.
My name is Jeff Gravitt. I'm the athletic director here at Notre Dame Regional High School.
One of the few private schools between Memphis and St. Louis.
So when we say regional, we're very serious about that word being a part of our name. Our athletic programs are 100% fundraised. Zero tuition dollars go to our athletic programs.
I knew one of my biggest challenges was going to be replacing the scoreboards. After doing the research for these scoreboards and even got as deep as talking to some people in California,
We sliced this 9 ways to Monday.
there was no question we should go with digital scoreboard. From the price to the quality of the boards to the relationship that we have, the warranty. I mean, it was a no-brainer. What we can do, we couldn't be more excited to be partnering with them.
And whenever you look at their experience nationally, it was how can they create partnerships to help us fund these scoreboards. Whenever they introduced us to scoreboard media, it was an exciting venture to make sure that it was possible to dream big and go big.
This partnership enabled us to come in there and not be any cost to the school.
There was zero money up front. We didn't put a penny up.
Being able to put digital boards all across campus, we couldn't have done it without scoreboard media. Being able to come here and front the money for the board, but also give us the tools and helping us through the process of going out and landing advertisers. We don't want you to see this as a donation. We want this to make sense for your business.
The world of digital media is here.
So we're tapping a different revenue stream than we did prior, because we were always out seeking donations.
You're selling digital advertising, and that is a much easier sell than a static sign. And so we've been the static sign kings, and so is every other school.
But when all of your sports are on the same advertising level because you went digital all throughout your facility, every sport gets not only the great boards and that fan experience, but also all of your sports are feeling equally treated when it comes to sponsorship dollars.
There were so many wins in this for us, along with the product itself, that if you've seen it is incredible. It turned out to be a no-brainer.
We're excited of what this is going to lead to and what the future holds for these scoreboards.
What was exciting about digital scoreboards was not only the quality of the product, but the team behind the product.
Chris, I think I'm back. If you can hear me now.
I've got you, Charlie. Good.
Okay, can I jump back in here?
Jump in. It's all you.
Sorry, everybody. Talk about bad timing. But anyways, I'm back. So look, doubling back to something that Don said, I want to emphasize how important I think Don's piece of this is, the educational piece. When I got into this, as Chris sort of alluded to earlier in the call, it was from a billboard perspective. I mean, I saw this as in an advertising play, albeit at a school. But one of the sort of joys early on for me was seeing how engaged the students became, and how everybody knows that these are great for teams, athletes, fans, certainly, and sponsors, which I'll get into. But there's a whole group that I didn't anticipate, and that was the other students at the school, maybe the students that previously weren't engaged in athletics, and now this became their thing. And so I just want to sort of call out what a fun component that is, or what a rewarding component that is and has been. And I think anybody who gets new LED video scoreboards and implements them on this basis will really get a kick out of that, as will your entire community. But the tie-in for us is that we found that sponsors really that angle. You know, yes, it's great advertising, and there's a great return on investment on it. The impressions are high, the CPMs or cost per thousand are low, but these have a heart. These advertisements or this form of media has a heart to it that almost no other form of advertising can boast. And so the more the students will be involved in that, I think you'll find sponsors love that. We even have some sponsors that bring the school mascot in and to the, like a bank branch, for example. I can think of one bank that shot like a Sports Center style commercial with the bulldog in the branch, and the student produced it, and so it's just that much like higher level of connectivity between the brand or the sponsor and the students and the parents. I mean, it's ultimately, that's who we're all going after as sponsors is the parents. I mean, yes, you want to reach the kids to some degree, but the people with all the disposable income, with the spending power, those are the moms and dads and aunts and uncles and grandparents in the stands. And so that's who we want to reach. And who's more sort of primed to buy or emotionally primed than parents watching their kids compete? And so a lot of our messaging is, is built around that idea. So the beginning, we function in, I should say, we serve two functions. The first is sponsorship. Whatever we do, whether we buy equipment, buy a portion of it, or don't buy any of it, we always handle sponsorship. That's really, like, I would say, our primary value. And I mean, it's just, it's what we're good at this point. We've got the systems, we've got the people, so we've got the time and the energy and the best practices. And so, even if, you are like in the community, that I would say athletic directors, school superintendents, administrators, teachers, they probably have a higher, certainly a bigger Rolodex in the community maybe than we do. But what we have is the time to go, to sort of build upon that. And so we look to form those partnerships and basically let us take all the time off of your plate and let us go drive sponsorships for you. So sponsorships are always the biggest piece. Now, along with that comes, of course, like contract. It's sort of the administrative side of the house. So contracting, artwork, and program execution, proof of performance reporting, photos and videos, billing, right, invoicing, collecting of revenue, all those things that are really no fun to do. We're able to sort of, we have got the time and the systems to do those things. But all of this is designed to allow you to afford this great product, right? As Chris sort of opened the call saying, everybody would like LED, probably. I mean, to the degree that everyone wants an iPhone or a smartphone, right? I mean, you don't see so many flip phones around anymore. The world has gone certainly the smartphone direction. This is no different. The world is going in the large format LED video scoreboard direction. So then it becomes a question of affordability and how to afford it. And sponsorship, I think, is the clear way to afford it. And if you can already afford it, great, then this can be a major revenue source for the school. We've got one school that's, that knows how much a classroom, what do they call it? Like refinishing or rebuilding an entire classroom. They're in the process of doing that classroom by classroom across their whole school. And they're doing it through scoreboard revenue. So they know every X number of dollars that they bring in, that we bring in, and that they, sort of put on their side of the ledger for sponsorship revenue, every, X number of dollars funds a new classroom. So even if you've got the money to buy the scoreboard and the initial purchase isn't a question, isn't in question, the ability to use these to generate revenue is really, really powerful stuff. Going a little bit further, like as I mentioned, everybody knows that teams love these, right? A lot of times this conversation will start with a coach or with an athletic director. The players love them. They love to see themselves on camera and instant replay and hype videos and player profiles and things like that. And the fans really love them in terms of the game experience and a lot of what Don talked about in terms of game entertainment. But what you may not think of is sponsors want to have a connection to your community. It's not a donation at all. They want this. I mean, if you talk to a lot of these businesses, it's very hard to market yourself locally right now. And billboards are extraordinarily expensive, and especially comparatively here. And so and also that a billboard, a radio spot, TV spot, all those things, they reach a really broad audience. And this is the opportunity to reach exactly audience, right? These are people that live and sleep and learn and spend in their community, in this immediate area. And so this is a direct channel to reach those. But it's just a matter of, making the time to reach out to all these people, and, even sponsors that this is really good for and that really benefit from this, still takes time to reach out to them sort of again and again. So everything starts with sponsorship. We can go to the next slide here. And then we can take those sponsorship dollars and do really 3 or 4 different things with them. The first is if the school doesn't want to use any of their own money, and if they we have to do kind of a market analysis to determine, we look at certain metrics within the market, economics and number of businesses around, and sort of the connectivity between the businesses and the school, and also how many venues are we doing, and therefore sort of how attractive will the media package be. And then we'll try to determine, all right, what do we think we can do in terms of sponsorship revenue? And that'll give us a really good idea of how much we can afford to invest in equipment if in fact the school wants us to make the investment, and if all the pieces line up. Not all schools want to do that. So let's flip to the next slide. Some schools will already have all their own equipment, and so they may have everything, right? They may have a football stadium and a gym, and then of course there's other venues. We've done soccer, we've done softball, we've done baseball, to name a few. But I'd say very frequently we'll see like a complete package might be football stadium and gym, but a lot of times a school will have all that stuff and just say, hey, we've got the equipment, or we've earmarked the funds for it, and we just want you to help us sell sponsorship and run the program. And that's where you can see the price tag down here sort of skews more towards the school in that case, because the school has made the capital investment, so we're not seeking any return on capital. We're just kind of a hired act at that point, and we'll do all the entire business end of it and work in cooperation with you, recognizing that you may have partnerships with a hospital already, maybe some trainers on the sidelines, you might have some sponsors already, and we need to work around those. We can do all of those things, and it puts you in a good deal of control over the sponsorship program, but without having to do any of the heavy lifting. Do the fun stuff that you like, do board content, keep score during the games, and let us handle some of the more onerous stuff, or the stuff that maybe not everybody enjoys doing. So that's, and then certainly the school keeps more of the economics in that case. Moving to the next slide. And there's a hybrid option. The school that we did this, Chris mentioned a school in Kansas, but we did this there, which is a hybrid. The school had recently purchased a football stadium board and wanted us to purchase boards in the gymnasiums, 2 of them actually, 2 gyms that is. And so we looked at what we thought we could do in sponsorships and what they already had in place in the football stadium, and we came up with a package. And that's been an extraordinary success. It's been great for the school, and a pleasure for us to work in that community, because it was a community that, although it's maybe smaller, I think the whole town maybe has 2,000 people, and the high school only has a couple. The community is very involved and very engaged with the school, and so business has really turned out for that. They pack the place on Friday nights, and then of course during indoor games all year round. And so the hybrid option is where the school owns some and we buy some, and then the economics are sort of case by case depending on the level of investment and sort of how heavy the lift is going to be for sponsorships. Moving to the next one. The last one is sort of the idea of predictable income. So this is where the school might say, all right, we want to make the purchase. We either have the money or we believe that, whether through a bond offering or whatever, other mechanisms, we can get the money, but we need to know that we can either pay it back, make debt payments on it, or, hit certain revenue targets. And so we can look at we'll do what's called a market assessment or MOA. We'll look at everything from average household income, average home prices, number of small businesses in the market, number of big employers in the market, all sorts of economic factors, and we can make a determination on what we think we can generate in sponsorship revenue there, and then give you that number so that you can start to build some budget constraints around it, or budget pro forma around that. So, as kind of zooming out again, it all starts with sponsorships, whether you use that to afford product or plow it back into the district and the schools. And, I think through our systems and in resources, we can certainly help do that. And then there's a finance component that may be more or less applicable depending on your situation. But that's, we look at sponsorships as a way to afford finance on our end as well. So those are really the two pieces.
Yeah, thanks for that, Charlie. I'm really bullish about this segment of our business. As I said earlier, pretty much every school wants this, but the biggest question we get and our sales staff gets is how do we get it across the finish line? And I think that's between you and your staff and us and ours. When we sit down with a school and we just kind of lay the cards on the table, we do that MOA. We start looking at the market. We look at what kind of equipment they want. What is going to be the purchase price, whether they lease it, they finance it, they purchase it outright. And then we start to build a model. I'm a firm believer that no two schools are the same. Every school is certainly unique. And I feel like that's where, between the Scoreboard Media and Digital Scoreboard partnership, it can really help these schools get it across the finish line. So thanks for that. Audrey, be happy to turn it over to any advertising or sponsorship revenue Q&A.
Absolutely. One of our first questions here is, how much are schools raising on average in a given year?
So it's tough. It can be a pretty broad range. It's sort of like how much does a house cost on average, a little bit, right there. It depends on the market, certainly. It depends on the number of venues and whether the school, there's even factors like, is it a single high school district? Are there multiple high schools in the district? How many venues are we doing? What's the attendance at a lot of those venues? But I know that, we're looking to sort of narrow the range. I would say on the low end, single venue, let's just say a gymnasium, on the low end, $50,000 a year for a single venue in I would call that, sort of a smaller market, and single venue and, more prominent, higher end of that range would be 100 plus. We don't generally get involved in anything that's going to be less than 50,000 a year. I just think most markets can do that. If you now include multiple venues, you should definitely get that up into the six figures and maybe, easily 150 and up. But then you probably reach a point, no matter how many venues you do, those aren't necessarily multipliers. So if you are a relatively small high school, but have 5 venues, let's say, all with LED, that's great. That's a beautiful media package and an incredible sort of game experience for, and a great upgrade to the school. But it doesn't mean that a hospital system, for example, will spend 5x in sponsoring it. So it's not necessarily a linear relationship, but I'd say on the low end, single venue, most schools should be able to do 50,000 plus. And I'd say, but we've seen that certainly 300, 400,000, depending on the market and depending on, sort of the entire package.
Thank you for those details. Another question that we have is that if a school chooses to have Scoreboard Media manage the program, do you all have full-time salespeople securing ads?
Yes, definitely. That is our, that's a cornerstone of our business is boots on the ground in your market. Now, we don't have a person necessarily in every single market, but we've got a person that can drive to every single one of our schools, right? And so that's really at the core of, I think a lot of our business happens, in coffee shops and face-to-face and getting together with people. And I mean, this media is at its essence a really personal experience. It's getting people to games. We'll host events at games. We'll do tailgates. We'll do sponsor nights, and where we can put up artwork for a lot of our potential sponsors, as well as showcase our existing sponsors. And it's really critical that we know those people, that they know us, and that they get to really feel this experience. And so yeah, we have boots on the ground for all of our schools, and that's really important to the overall effort. I will say we've grown a really substantial national presence as well. So now we have a lot of the national quick serve restaurants and sort of big brands that you might associate with high school sports. And so we have that, and obviously that is, those are more national decision makers rather than local, but local will always be our bread and butter. And so, yeah, having local sales reps, real people in the territory is, key to that.
Thank you. And then one last question here. If the school owns the equipment, is Scoreboard Media then a revenue share partner? And is that a set percentage?
Yes, it is a revenue share partner. We're really just a hired hand at that point. Whatever, the school owns them, and we really are just charged with doing the heavy lifting and generating sponsorships. It's not necessarily a fixed percentage. It floats around in a pretty tight range, but I hesitate to throw a number out there because every school could be a little bit different, just depending on what they're already doing, let's say, sort of how mature their program is, how big their offering of LED scoreboards is, et cetera. So there's a little bit of a range there, but yeah, we're just a revenue share partner at that point.
Thank you, Charlie. So I would just encourage everybody on the call, if you're interested in video boards and you don't know how you want to get it across the finish line, just reach out to us and ask that question. We'll sit down, no questions asked, no, there's no fee to do that, if you will. We'll sit down, we'll do a study for you. We'll have a conversation. We'll see if it's a potential match for the Scoreboard Media model. And then we'll just, we'll advise you throughout that process. So we've seen that be very successful nationwide. We have obviously, had to turn some schools down just based on market and viability. But we'd rather be honest on the front side than overpromise and think that we could go generate revenue that maybe just isn't there. So we would just encourage you to reach out. Charlie and I would love to talk to you, and our staffs would love to have that conversation as well. So thanks again, Charlie.
Thank you.
All right. Closing up here with about 15 minutes to go. So we've talked curriculum, we've talked advertising, sponsorship, but one of the biggest questions that we seem to get from schools, and understandably so, because a lot of athletic directors, coaches, superintendents, administrators as a whole, they're really, really good at running their school in education and educating students and what have you. But when the thought of construction is posed, it can be pretty daunting. How are you going to build this big scoreboard on one pole? How are you going to put this center hung into the rafters of our gym? Or, hey, if you're just going to put a couple boards on the wall in our gym, can we still keep the gym open? And can we still have PE class or pep assemblies or practice or what have you? And so I wanted to bring somebody to the table today that we just finished a very large project with. We just finished 2 baseball stadiums, 2 softball stadiums, 2 gymnasiums, and 2 very, very large football stadiums, largest scoreboards in the state of Arkansas, and allowed Donald Tucker with Springdale Public Schools to talk to everybody about, what was that process like? As you've seen on some of these slides, some of these projects are pretty large. We offer full in-house, engineering, steel fabrication, construction, installation, and we pride ourselves on the ease of that operation. But instead of having somebody like myself talk about that as the owner of the company, and not to have it come from a sales perspective, I just thought Donald could talk to the team about kind of that process at Springdale with such a large installation. So with that being said, Donald, take it away.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Listen, we're very proud of the scoreboards. It's a fantastic addition to our district. But the construction part, to be honest, that was kind of the most concerning aspect of it. Sure, how do we pay for it? And we'll get to that. But the construction part was met with over deliverance, basically under promise. And so when their team showed up, it was all hands on deck. And so we had a really tight window that we wanted to get baseball and softball boards in before the season ended. And talking with Chris and his team, they kind of came up with a plan and a strategy. And to the hour, these things came off flawlessly. So we installed 2 baseball fields, or a softball and a baseball field, over the course of spring break while the teams were out of town traveling for the games. And so we did that. The next home game was on a Tuesday. On Monday afternoon, it was live and ready to go. Now, I wish every aspect of our life was that way and that precise and easy to deal with, because most of the time it's not. And this is such a huge project. We had a lot of raised eyebrows and concerns about hitting the mark and making sure this worked, and it went flawlessly. There were challenges. One of our stadiums was built on solid rock. So they had to get through the solid rock to figure that out for the monopole. Put it on a monopole. We're all raising our eyebrows about that. And Chris assured us that they do this all the time. Talked to us about the scoreboard, the video boards, how they do it across the country. They showed us it works. It was flawless. Like, we absolutely love the product. And to be honest, the installation and the construction part of it was the easiest part of the whole thing. I mean, not any of it was hard, but that was the part we were worried about the most, is getting it delivered and set up and installed on time. And they did a fantastic job.
I appreciate that, Donald. I mean, none of this is for the faint of heart, right? Like when you're drilling a 5-foot hole and you're going 27 feet deep, and you're trying to build a monopole of that magnitude. It's like, how fast can you get in? How fast can you get out? That's really what we take pride in. Would you mind just talking a little bit about the process? I think your contract came in roughly around the 1st of February of this year. Spring break was about 6 weeks later. And we snuck in and got, did full turnkey construction and install some baseball and softball. We're there on the road. We just kind of talk about that and the process all the way through.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, Chris and his team came up with a plan, a strategy, basically by the day, how this was going to work out, how it had to work out. Our side of the job was that we're bringing power and data to those boards. And so what they did was they mapped it out for us, worked in conjunction with our district maintenance facilitator, so they can get the power and the data to the boards to make them turn on. And then they take each step and implement it. And so what happened was we saw the progress develop every single day as they drilled down and they installed. But not only that, they also took down the video boards that we already had previously installed, or the scoreboards, as you were, and they took those down and installed in the same trip through that week. And so by the time the teams got back, as I said, on Monday, the following of the spring break, the boards were active, live, software was running, and they were ready to score a game. So the process was really easy. The documentation was there. Everybody could look at it. There was a great methodical linear plan from the start of the construction all the way to the finish of the construction and how it would work, even though there was obstacles that came into the play, into the, like I said, digging through the rock. It was a hiccup because of the construction part of the drilling through the rock part of it, but all of it was still on time. We put an impossible deadline on it, and Digital Scoreboards did a fantastic job of getting it delivered on time. So the seniors on those teams can have some of the video board before they moved on to the college or after high school careers.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Donald. One of the things that I think our whole entire team, whether it's on our engineering side or our construction and installation side, what have you, is they pride themselves in the timeliness. We feel like we're one of the fastest in the industry. From contract to install on indoor, on average, we're about 6 to 8 weeks from contract installation, and on outdoor, on average, we're about 10 to 12 weeks. And on new construction, and about 6 to 8 on what we call retrofit, or if we're going on existing beams. This is kind of how our process stacks up, and kind of what Donald touched on a little bit. We started working with Donald and his team, really, I would say probably back in November, late November, and it was kind of the pre-sale process. We looked at, what do you guys want to accomplish? What size? How do you want it? How do you want it designed? We feel like every school is unique. We custom build based on certain, building blocks. So outdoor, we can hit any configuration, a school wants. Indoor, the same thing. Are we using existing steel? Are we putting new steel in the ground? Are we going on the wall? Are we going to go in the rafters of a gym? Everything in between. And so we do a pre-sale process, and then we nail everything down. Once that happens and we go under contract, we immediately go into contracting, deposit invoicing, but then the fun starts. It's all the pre-construction, engineering, power, fiber, submittals, all of those things. And a lot of schools can be a little overwhelmed by that process because there's a lot of moving parts, but I feel like that's where our team really starts to excel. And then we go into the assembly, the construction, and then lastly, we really focus on the customer fulfillment. You actually, if talking about customer fulfillment, I'm going to come back to this slide real quick and show you a quick image if it'll pull up here. This one right here. If you see this scoreboard was actually built and fully installed. Donald and his team called and said, hey, I'm really sorry to do this, but we would like to turn the board. I think it was 9 inches. And so if you see the crane has this little small spool right here, we took it off, we put the spool on, and we turned that board 9 inches after it was already installed. You can't do that on I-beams. Once you put I-beams in the ground, it's set in stone. But in our particular case, fulfillment is the most important piece of this whole entire puzzle. We can sit and meet with schools and go through pre-sale, contracting, pre-construction, construction, all the above. But when that project's finished and we do the final walkthrough, if the customer's unhappy with something, it's our job to fix it and get them satisfied. And that's exactly what we did at one of Donald's 2 stadiums, because the board they felt was about 9 inches out of square because it was a brand new stadium. And we installed our board before the turf went in. So we were kind of eyeballing it to line it up. And at the end of the day, it wasn't right. We came back, we spun it 9 inches. We did not charge the school for that. And we moved on. That's what customer fulfillment means to digital scoreboards at the end of the day. Couple more small pieces of the puzzle, and then we'll do some quick Q&A and wrap this up. Once again, I really appreciate you guys being here. For us, everybody has good product, as I said earlier. And we believe that we stack up right there with everybody as well from a product and a warranty and a customer service and a fulfillment perspective. But what we do is we do things a little differently as well. Whether it's center hung scoreboards like you see on the screen here with Jackson State, that was a specific design. Spain Park High School in Alabama, how they wanted that designed. Obviously baseball stadiums, this one's in Georgia. We have our trailer product. So if schools want to, have a portable model, we also do non-sports events as well, and so on and so forth. Just a few other things that we offer. Mobile LED is coming, and it's coming fast, especially on the college side. We've got schools like BYU and Morehead State and North Carolina Central, and many, many more, University of Buffalo, that are buying our portable LED trailers. 5 different sizes available, rotates 360 degrees, raises up 10 to 15 feet to the bottom of the screen, full sound system, iPad driven. So it becomes very flexible for sand volleyball, tennis, golf, cross country, track and field, anything of the sort. Then you have everything else from scorers tables to our touchscreen wall of fames, indoor, outdoor, which we've already talked about, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, here's our promise. We do truly have the industry's leading warranty. Our outdoor product has an 11-year warranty, every single component on the board. It comes with a 5-year on-site labor warranty, and schools can upgrade all the way up to an 11-year labor warranty as well. We offer 24/7, 365 in-house customer service. If it's Friday night at 7 o'clock and you've got a user error or a technical problem or whatever, you're going to call our 800 number. You're going to get a warm body. We track every single inbound call. We're really excited and proud about this, but last year it was 91 seconds from the time a call came in to a live body was talking to that customer on the phone, not getting put in a waiting queue, not getting put into a, hey, we'll call you back. 91 seconds from an inbound call to a live person. Over and above that, we traditionally had their problem diagnosed in less than 7 minutes after getting on the call. And then lastly, we were 23.4 hours from the time the call came in to boots on the ground, fixed the board. That is our guarantee. That's our promise to schools. That is a differentiator for Digital Scoreboards. We also offer flexible financing and leasing. All of our boards are high resolution, the highest resolution in the industry. So really our advantage is peace of mind, customer service, and models that will fit within your budget from a solutions-based approach. With that said, I'd love to take any questions, whether it be about product, software, or anything else. So Audrey, feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a couple of last questions here. When it comes to the scoreboards that are in a pool facility, what type of timing system is used at those pools?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're really excited about this. So years ago, we knew that there were some tried and true timing systems that were out there, whether it was Colorado or DAC Sports timing, what have you, which I think they are officially getting out of that market. But we can integrate with all of the timing systems that are already there. So if you already have a timing system and you want to keep it, we can put a video board in. We have some hardware and software that can integrate that very seamlessly. That's what we did at Ladue High School, where Don built his curriculum. But we are also a national distributor of Omega Swiss. So we offer Omega Swiss timing. They've been timing the Olympics and Division I and everything else for, since the 1930s. And that is kind of our tried and true. If somebody wants a new timing system to go along with that video board, we are selling and including Omega Swiss.
Thank you. And then what can you share with everyone about the sales and buying process with Digital Scoreboards?
Yeah, we look at it as, a partnership. It's more about advising and, and consulting. We sit down, we ask a lot of questions. People buy for their reasons and not ours. Every single school, like a lot of these photos that you saw today, every school was unique. So we sat down with them and we just started asking them questions. What's important? Is it size? Is it keeping up with the Joneses? Hey, they got a competitor down the street. They want to be a little bit bigger. What's the size of that board? Or is it budget? Is it warranty? Is it service? Is it software? We offer multiple software solutions, not just one. Our competitors offer one software and it's a one size fits all. It doesn't matter if you're a school with a lot of resources or no resources, you're getting the same software. We come in, we sit down with the school and we're like, what's important to you? How do you want your game operations to run? Do you want it to run on iPad? Do you want it to run on a traditional scoring console? So we really just sit down, Audrey, and just ask them the questions and let them kind of guide it. And then we fit them with the right product and the right model.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chris. And it looks like that is all the questions we have from our audience today. For our audience members, you will receive an email with reference sheets and contact information if you have any questions for the team at Digital Scoreboards or you want to follow up. And thank you so much, Chris and Charlie and Don and Donald, for giving the presentation today, and to all of Digital Scoreboards for working with us on today's webinar.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody joining. And if there's ever an opportunity that we can visit with you, we'd love to. Here on this last slide, feel free to scan that QR code. That will take you to a form that you can fill out and get more information about us and request a consultation or what have you. But we really appreciate your time and the opportunity to join you all today.